live here from Texas. We are here with CRE Pro Coffee with CRE Closers. We've got two of the biggest and best closers in the country today with us here, Mark and Mike. I'm Zach Rasinger from the CRE Pro Show, and CRE Pro course. Feel free to reach out to us. You know this is a live stream, so feel free to reach out and comment. Ask us any questions. We're going to get deep into it here with two of my good friends. You know me, Zach Rasinger, but I would love, Mark, if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself and what we can expect today on the CRE Pro Show with Mark and Mike.
Hey guys, my name is Mark Giesecke. I'm a Texas ranch broker, 8th generation Texan. Family comes from farming, ranching, banking, all the way down. So whatever you want to know about Texas, we can talk about it.
I love it. Mike, can you give us a quick intro of who you are? You might be fairly new. Mark and I do a ton of business together. I'll explain our relationship here in a second, but I would just love to know, who is Mike Bowen?
So I run a company called Ranger Land and Minerals here in Dallas. We're an acquisition group. We primarily focus on producing minerals in West Texas. Kind of our niche market is to acquire these producing mineral rights and provide them as replacement properties to real estate investors who are looking for an alternative to brick and mortar when they're doing 1031 exchanges. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff going on, but that's our primary function.
And I hope we can talk about what you think the future of the 1031 exchange is going to be, because we get that question all the time in the CRE Pro. We actually have in our course an entire section about teaching about 1031 and tax mitigation. And I know you're an expert at this, so I'm going to love to hear what you have to say about this. Just before we get into this, remember, you can always like, subscribe, share in your LinkedIn feed. That really helps us. So in real time, if you want to drop over to your wall and drop the link for this event, the live, we always comment on and engage with our viewers, friends, family, everybody who's coming, friends of Mike's, friends of Mark's, inside of the comments. And so post them there, whether you're live or in the rewind. So let's just drop right into it. I'm going to tell you quickly how I know Mark. Mark is a super upstanding, standout guy. But I think of him as the original Texas cowboy, the guy that sticks behind his word. And he and I were on two sides of a deal. We always talk about this in the CRE Pro show or CRE Pro course, is stay close with the broker on the other side. Mark and I are a great example of that. We went heads up battle into a deal. It was a tough one. But at the end of the day, he does what he says he's going to do, and I really respected that. So I reached out to him afterwards. We went and got lunch, and we became friends, and now we're doing deals together, and it's fantastic. Through him, I met Mike. So, Mark, tell us a little bit more about what you do, what you specialize in, and what you're working on right now that can help our CRE pros learn more about you and Texas land, farm, and ranch.
So I sell Texas dirt primarily. So when I got into the business, we primarily sold ranches. And when you talk about a ranch, that was thousands of acres, had horses and cows and dealt with oil and goats and what you could raise on it, what you could grow on it. Well, so it was agriculture, all things Texas. Well, that's kind of going away in Texas, which I hate to see. Now we're selling land, but that land is becoming vineyards, craft distilleries, venues, honky tonks, and music outlets. So many different things than subdivisions. So all the big stuff is getting cut up into smaller usable pieces. The old ways kind of going away. So I've had to adjust my thinking and learn some things and get out of my comfort zone. I've even taken wine classes to figure out what the heck wine is and where it comes from and how they make it. So culturally, we've seen tremendous shift in Texas. You know, Texas is a huge place, and I sell all parts of the state, north, west, south, east, central, and they're all different. You know, whatever you want in the world, you can find in Texas.
That's a great slogan right there. I think you just created a new one for Texas there. I love it. Mike, can you tell us a little bit more? So once they come to Mark, and I know from personally from dealing with you, Mark, you get a lot of business coming out of California. People just want more space. They want more elbow room. They want to find their own piece of Texas dirt, as our friend Doug Lawson there said. What's up, Doug? So people come out here to find their own dirt. Where do they come in contact with you, Mike? Who are you trying to talk to more often, and where do you find the most? Where do you find the most that you can provide value?
Yeah, so I mean, we spend most of our time on the acquisition end of the business, right? I mean, the hardest part of what we do is, being able to find the highest quality property. We've been in business for several years now and have become very efficient at it. I don't do any kind of sales or marketing efforts, so in order for my business to grow, I've got to sell down a portion of each asset that we acquire. So I've got a network of guys just like Mark and other tax attorneys, CPAs, a lot of realtors, brokers, things of that nature, who have the audience that I'd be looking for, which is the people who are looking for an alternative brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Whether it's a 1031 or not. But what ends up happening a lot of times, especially in the larger transactions, like with what Mark handles primarily, and then a lot of commercial real estate, shopping centers and multifamilies and apartments, things like that. People sell these for a large dollar amount, and they'll find that perfect replacement property. A lot of times they're looking not so much in the shopping center end of it, but like
Yeah.
apartments and some of the other stuff. They're looking for off market distressed property stuff that they can do some work on. So anyway, they'll sell a property for $2 million and find a replacement for $1.5 million and have $500,000 left over that they don't want to pay capital gain tax on, right? And that's
Yeah.
really where we come into play. Obviously, I'm love to be a full replacement for somebody with 2, 3, 4, 5, $10 million, but really what our business model is set up to do is help people average up the exchange and add cash flow where there may or may not be any,
Okay.
and give them some diversification. They're usually looking for, like I said, an alternative to brick and mortar, or it's a safety net for them. But what we do is we give people the ability to generate income that's not tied to the stock or real estate markets. It's paid at the wellhead based on the price of oil and natural gas. And we didn't start out this way, but over the last couple of years, we're 100% focused in West Texas Permian Basin, and then the Delaware Basin, which is the deeper version of it on the Texas and Mexico border, focused on tier one acreage, where you've got all your majors and super majors operating, your Pioneers, your ConocoPhillips, so on and so forth. So, it's about location.
Okay.
Best location in the country, one of the best locations in the world. So, our focus is out there in West Texas in terms of our inventory, if you will. And then, like I said, looking for, guys like Mark or other individuals who are doing 1031s who need help, right? Providing a solution for that extra capital.
So they come to Mark. They've either sold already and they're looking to place that capital in new deals. Maybe Mark Mark, you sell entire towns. Our team here thought that was hilarious. I told them about a deal you did I think was 12 to 1,500 acres. It included multiple towns. And they thought that was mind blowing to them out of Europe. They said, "What? This guy's selling entire towns." I said, "Yeah, this is a big time deal right here." So they come to you with some money. That maybe they buy a town from you, or maybe they buy a ranch, get some elbow room, and then they have some time after they sell their property in order to identify the next location. Right? They have a 45-day period. During that 45-day identification period, are they coming to you, Mike, and they're identifying an asset that owned by Ranger, or is there a different process? Or am I getting that correct?
Well, it's yeah. I mean, that's the gist of it. There's some scenarios too where somebody knows they're going to be, they got a property under contract, but they haven't closed yet, and that could be a 10-day window, or that could be a 90-day window, or 4 months sometimes. And that's just how real estate goes.
Sure.
So, we're coming in contact with, these exchangers at various points in the process. The majority of the time, it's the clock started ticking on a 45-day window. Um,
Right.
Especially here lately, it's been real tough, I think, for a lot of people to find. You're selling real estate at almost, in most cases, the peak of its value. So you can find replacement properties, but it's been real hard, I think, for a lot of these people to fill up their exchange. And I mean, who the heck wants to pay that capital gains tax, right? So a lot of the time they're coming to me during that 45 window saying, "Hey, look, I've had no luck, but I got to sell my property. How can you help me?"
Yeah. Okay. So, Mark, I know that I know that you guys have worked together with Mike, and you work with a lot of the other clients and partners that I have. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're working on right now and how that how that might translate into something that you can do a deal, where you think of Mark or Mike inside of the process as you're doing a deal you're working on right now. How does that work?
So, like Mike said, with my clients, a lot of times they have 1031 money. So we'll declare a property, at the time you contract, you go into title. um, just an issue that just occurred. The guy had the property identified, was going to buy it, and all of a sudden, if that fell out.
Yeah.
So he's sitting there with 5 days left, and he was about to have to pay capital gains. I got him with Mike, and the guy was able to put his money in with Mike. He's making some pretty good dividend checks, and he's really happy. So now he's got that money tax deferred in place, making money while he can really go out and look for the other property that he wants down the road. But a lot of times, like he said, my guys will sell for a certain amount and go buy something else for a less amount, and then they have others left over. It's a great place for them to put it.
Yeah.
And again, the dividend, Mike's not talking about the actual money that these guys are making. In a lot of instances, it's life-changing monthly income.
You can always disclose here that amount if you want, Mike, but up to you, my man. I always want to give you a chance to pump it, but I know sometimes I'm part of two groups here, NCE and SEC, both 1031 exchange groups. Just these guys are just ballers, and I know that they meet in a clandestine circle so that they can keep the knowledge and information inside. And sometimes it's with accredited investors. Sometimes it's just because it's sort of a I don't know. It's an ability to replace and put your money back into real estate in a 1031 exchange. Can you if you have a theory or a thesis on this, what do you think is going to happen here in the next year or 2 years with the 1031 exchange? Is it yay or nay, or what's your thought?
I mean, look, I'm by no means a political expert or an economist or anything like that, but in my opinion, you take a step back and you look at the people who are making the decisions, right, and who influence the decision making. I don't know a single wealthy person in the real estate space that doesn't do 1031 exchanges, politicians included. So I think you crash. I mean, I don't know if you crash the economy, but you're going to put it if you take those exchanges away, like they were talking about doing. Nobody's ever going to sell nothing.
Sure.
I mean, you're going to throw a wrench in the whole thing, and I just don't see, the one in my opinion, one of the most valuable, tax shelters or tax deferring strategies there is. One of the best ways to grow wealth in real estate, just go away like that. I mean, I just don't see how it can happen. But again, I mean, look, I'm not a authority on it, but I don't see it going anywhere.
Yeah, you just sort of handle it as it comes in, right? It's dangerous to speculate on what's going to happen in politics, and I've seen the percentages of senators, congressmen, and politicians who use and leverage the 1031 on a regular basis, and it just seems improbable, but nothing's impossible, right? So we're always trying to pivot and provide value to our clients and customers, make sure that they are aware of what's available, always deferring them to the advice of a professional like a lawyer or an accountant. But we as real estate professionals are there to provide that counsel, essentially, to say here's what the option is. Here's a guy, Mark or Mike, to talk to find out more about the 1031 exchange or what's available, what options are out there to purchase, and then what alternatives to land are there to purchase.
Here's what I'll tell
Um,
you is I think that right now, I mean, I don't think I know right now, there's no issue with it. Real estate's about as good as it's been in a long time, if ever. I mean, look, I'm
I
39
agree.
now for 50, 60 years or anything, but as long as I've been in the business world, I've never seen anything like this. So it's a great time to sell. And I think, you get while the getting's good, it makes a lot of sense. So I think you take advantage of it until you can, you know.
Mark, you've got a great saying on this, and it was from, I don't know, maybe the first few times that we talked. Again, different sides of the table, but we connected, and I was like, all right, I got respect for this guy. And you said to me, I don't know how well or how long this is going to last, but wow, things are blowing up here in Texas. We're in the Austin MSA, which includes some of the bigger announcements like Tesla or Samsung, up into Marble Falls and Hill Country. So yeah, what's your thought on that, Mark? What do you know, as a real estate broker, as a commercial guy, as a farm and ranch and land guy, how do you approach what's happening right now? And how do you sort of prepare your clients that are thinking about selling, thinking about buying? What is your feeling on that?
Oh, there's a lot to that question. Again, we're in an unprecedented market. We've never seen this in Texas. Austin blew up. Everything came in. You have so many people moving here. For every house that goes up for sale in Austin, there's 10 contracts waiting, 10 people waiting to buy it.
Yeah.
And then that Austin person is moving the heck out, and they're wanting to get out onto some land or country. So we have that buyer. There's so many other things happening that are just interesting. Again, the repurposing of land, the different buyer, the diversity of buyers that we have. One, it's prioritizing and trying to figure out where to put people. So,
What do you mean by that? What do you mean where to put people?
Well, replacement properties, finding it, it's such a competitive world out here. You need to have somebody that intimately knows your area, because there's only going to be a certain amount of like properties or desired properties that are on the market. You got to be able to go and find the guy that owns it that might sell it. There's so much demand right now, which for the seller, they're selling so high, it's ridiculous. But we have buyers willing to pay unprecedented prices.
Let me ask you, Mike, on that topic. I get this all the time. And so I want to know if, let's just say, so Mark, you've got a listing that I love. It's called Tati's. It's a 7-acre ranch that has a bar event venue on it. It's got a 2-2 cottage. It's just beautiful. I saw it come out on LoopNet the other day in the Marble Falls area around here in Austin, 60 minutes from Austin. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's an
And
awesome little place. So if somebody wanted to come in and buy a honky tonk in Texas, now you can do anything with it. You can make it an Airbnb. You can put RVs. You can do music venues, weddings, which is what it's used for. But I look at it, if somebody wants to create their own Lukenbach, Texas, and
going
create
Lukenbach, Texas.
Willie and Waylon. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. It's in the most amazing location of Texas. I mean, you're on 281. You're near Marble Falls, Round Mountain, Texas, just out of Austin, just north of San Antonio. It's cool.
So
That's Texas.
if somebody comes in and let's just hypothetical seller, we don't need to get into who that is or what that looks like, but they sell that property, which is essentially a venue and land, right? And they come to you and they say, okay, the seller says, okay, now I have this money. I don't want to pay capital gains or the full boat on capital gains. Maybe it's $2-3 million or whatever. Then you say, look, I've got a friend, Mike. We need to get in touch and talk to him. Mike, can you tell me a little bit more? Because I'm under the impression that it needs to be a like kind investment, and this is not oil and gas. This is not minerals. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that looks like when Mark is reaching out to you, and how our CRE pros can think about that?
Well, in the eyes of the IRS, a mineral royalty interest is considered like kind because it's a deeded asset, right? There's
Okay.
no title. So the like kind is not an issue. You can check that box. Basically, and sometimes, man, I love Mark because sometimes I won't even talk to him for a week, and then I get 2 or 3 people go, well, Mark said to call you, and then sometimes we'll talk prior to, and kind of tell me what's going on, just depending on his schedule and mine. But what you can count on is these people, 1031 or not, they've come to Mark for advice. They're saying, hey, look, for whatever reason, can't find what they're looking for, or they just need that alternative.
Yeah.
And I would put money on the fact that there's people who weren't even thinking about it. And Mark says, hey, this is a guy that you need to know because this stuff works. My employees have done it, the clients have done it. So I know Mark's one of my biggest fans, and I'm his. I'll send him people too. But yeah,
Hey, Mark, you've got one. No, I'm just kidding, man. You got a lot of them. That Mike is exactly how you and I were introduced. Actually, I've got a client in the same situation, and Mark just said, "This is a stand-up guy. He's got a very great idea." And I thought, man, I've been doing this for such a long time. I didn't even think about that aspect. of real estate, right? I don't understand that. I didn't think about that 1031 aspect where there are multiple portions, and sometimes we call it a stack. When you look at a building, you can stack that building. So we talk about a lot in the 1031 in the SEC 1031 group, like how to relook at a building and say, okay, we've got air rights, we've got leases, we've got owners, condominiums, all this stuff. We've got ground lease, then we've got subsurface, we've got triple net. All this stuff can happen in one building or one transaction. And Mike, I think you just provided our viewers another alternative to what they had, another piece to that stack. It's really, I think it's mind blowing to me when I heard about it. I said, we got to get this guy on the show.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think, Brendan, let me add one thing real quick.
yeah,
You mentioned the triple net. A lot of times, especially for new guys who haven't really explored this as an idea at all, doesn't understand mineral rights or just hadn't thought about it for an exchange. You want to think about it like a triple net. You're the landlord, okay?
yeah,
The Exxon, the Chevron, the ConocoPhillips of the world, those are your tenants. They take care of absolutely everything and they assume all of the liabilities. So, when you're trying to compare, apples to oranges with everything else that you got, an option to purchase, it's basically a triple net when, at least with our stuff, with a much higher rate of return.
So let me ask you what I know again, you're not a soothsayer, but Mark, I know, does a ton of business in the Houston area, big land deals, big oil money. As Mark said, Permian Basin out here just crushing. Where do you foresee or forecast the price of oil going, and how does that affect your business and yeah? Is that helpful? Is it hurtful? Is it get in now or is it wait later? What's your thought on that?
Well, obviously, it affects the business for sure in many different capacities. For a mineral owner, you've got two variables that can, affect your income on one of these things. That's the price
Yeah.
and production, right, on a property. So when prices go up, a couple of things happen. Obviously, revenue from wells that are already producing that goes up. But what most people fail to realize is, so does drilling activity.
Yeah.
And we're in the beginning of a new drilling boom, in my opinion. And I think there's plenty of other people that would share that same sentiment. When these drilling,
Is that particularly, is that fracking, or are we talking just wells and the traditional, the horse called horse
yeah, I
pump
mean,
jack?
wells in general, the higher the prices get, the more economic they are for a guy who drills them or a company that drills them.
Right.
What we're focused on in West Texas is your unconventional, your fracking, your big
Yeah.
long horizontal wells, all the stuff that the big boys are drilling.
Right.
But yeah, as prices go up, drilling activity increases. We're at the beginning of a boom, in my opinion. And anytime there's a drilling boom in the U.S. in the last 20 years, it begins and ends in the Permian Basin. It's by far the premier. It's like Manhattan real estate versus Buffalo, New York. I mean,
I didn't even, I can be honest, I come from Colorado. I didn't even know what the Permian Basin was until I saw Friday Night Lights. And now I know where Odessa is. I know every college town or every high school town around there. I think it was fictitious. Again, I'm here in Austin, Texas. We got these guys that actually are in that movie living here. And I was like, I know you, but I only know you because you were the quarterback that threw against Permian Basin or so, or against Odessa. You're the running back that scored 5 touchdowns in a game. And they're like, God, I got to get out of here. So I think that's funny, and it's interesting to see that area out there. Mark, you know that area really well. How does somebody that is a CRE pro, if they want to get into farm ranch, big deal, big sales, and you and I talked about this a few weeks ago, there's only a few of those in Texas, and we can probably name them, on your hand. How does somebody get into that? How does somebody get out of, leasing shopping centers and getting into like big deals and out there handshake, big Texas handshake deals?
That's just the clientele that you're dealing with. So if you're all of these commercial guys that they're in the commercial business, they've got a lot of money to spend. Right now profits are up, economy's great. Still not a better place to put money than land. Um,
So, but to get that listing, right? So we often teach, or talk about, stomping floors and walking, identifying who owns the shopping center, and make sure you're getting, out there to the different retailers. But some of the ranches you're selling 1, 2, 300 acres, and these are old school cowboys, right? I mean, these are handshake businesses in a lot of cases. Of course, we paper everything because that's just the nature of real estate. You want to make sure you protect your client, protect yourself, protect the buyer and the seller. So yeah, how would you recommend that somebody sort of forge that beachhead? And if they wanted to get into farm and ranch today, you're coming right out of college, you go through the CRE Pro course, you've got a basis now in what commercial real estate is, and you've chosen farm and ranch as your go-to. What would you recommend to them?
It's tough. It's different than any other types of real estate. Most of it's relationship. I mean, really, you need to know people. So it's really hard for a young person. It just is.
I
Um,
can tell you, and this may be because you're so, forest through the trees. It is relationship-based business out here, more so than anywhere else. Again, I come out of commercial real estate in Denver and big city, big buildings. And we've talked about this in the course in the show and the hero's journey that like, I came into this because my dad's in it. But and I know that you have several people that you work with, and Pauline is example of one of them. She's been on the CRE Pro show before. And we talked about you, Mark, on this show. In fact, so some of our viewers might remember Mark from Pauline, but you have several people that are working for you with you, and I know that you through your familiar relationships, or just through like baseball or your kids or being a leader in the community, you forge these relationships and you make that introduction, right? You say, "This is Pauline. Pauline's working with me. She's my point of contact with you, but." I want, we're going to base this on our relationship, but Pauline is legit. And she is somebody that I would like us to, help each other out, help her out. So you're going and making that introduction to that old rancher that's just like, I don't know if I'd normally, it would be very difficult for her to go out and knock on his door. First of all, she'd probably get a in the
no,
front
she would.
porch, but you get that sort of pass beyond the moment and an invite to the guy's living room for a cup of coffee. And that's part of it. You help the juniors get in those meetings and make the introductions, and then they know Mike, and then they're doing business with Mike. So I can tell you that's a three-way wheel that right there that I can tell you works just by offering that mentorship, that you're extending your relationship to that cowboy, to people that work for you, work with you, and by that you're growing your network and hers. And Mike, you mentioned this, like how important are relationships in your business? I know with Mark, Mark's easy to talk to, right? Mark's one of the guys that picks up the phone every time. It's freaking amazing. But so and that's what I appreciate, right? We get a lot of people that are saying, "Hey, I'll send him an email," or somebody said this to me about you the other day, Mike. They said, "Oh, I'll just send him an email." I said, "No, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone today, because time kills deals, and time as information spreads, as that happens, you're losing the momentum of the deal. So call him, send him an email if you want, but like call him immediately right after and say, hey, Mike, did you get my email? I got a client I want you to talk to, because chances are you're not the only one he's talking to or she's talking to. So the faster you can connect two people in a deal, the more likely it is to happen, and the more likely you are to get paid on the deal. So what does that look like for you, Mike? Like as you're thinking about the relationship part of the business, how, what ideas can you give people to constantly remember who you are, what you do, or come top of mind? Because Mark does a great job of it, but I'm sure you have some tricks.
Yeah, I mean, so I think about it like this, whether I'm working on a deal, I've got, I'm trying to sell something, or I'm trying to buy something, or I'm trying to build a relationship, which is working on a deal, in my opinion. Deals are like snowballs, right? You get right after it, you don't waste time, and you want to get the ball rolling as fast as possible because you build that momentum, and then from there, deals are like an assembly line, right? Everybody plays their role in the deal, and you basically put these things together over time. And sometimes you have multiple spots on that line, but you got to make sure everybody's playing their role. But first and foremost, it's about the momentum. Just don't waste time. Don't ever wait for someone to get back to you. Don't wait for someone else to start something. Just turn the key on and put your foot on the gas pedal and go.
That is the so we at every CRE Pro show we pick out one, we call it the one thing, right? It's Gary Keller. That's the whole idea. It's like, this is, out of everything you get from this, that is the one moment you should just pick up in your mind and that is the one I think that we're gonna roll with here is do not wait. Do not let time kill deals. Pick up the phone, call the person, and do not wait for them to call you back. Right? Continue.
Yeah.
We always say this inside of Mark. I know this is one of your adages inside of All American is, do not wait. Make sure you get to a yes or no. Maybes kill deals. Maybes are the worst answer you can get, or someone to ghost you. I'd like to know why. If they say no, this is not the property for me. Great. Why? Yes, it is. Great. Let's, as you just said there, Mike, let's move it to the next step. Let's move it to the next person, the next piece of the puzzle, title, survey. We're doing environmental tests. We're getting the financing lined up. A lot of times we get this, I would say, misconceived notion in commercial real estate that the reason that we have a lot of residential agents, which is the same license, by the way, you pass one test, you can do both commercial and residential. So why not work less and make more commission? But we teach that inside of the course, and people say, well, yeah, but the closing time takes so much longer. That's false, right? The closing time can take longer, of course, but some home deals last for years, right? There's complications. It's in a trust. It's in financing's not set up. It's encumbered in some way. Title isn't happy. The survey is wrong. All of that stuff can happen in any deal. But as you said there, Mike, the faster you can get onto things, the faster you can do your due diligence, the faster you can get to a yes or a no, the faster the deal will happen. So I always tell people the deals will happen as fast as you make them happen, as much as you're on top of people. And Mark is a great example of this. Let me tell you this story, Mike, that he's working on a deal right now that I know about. This a land deal, and we're trying to get a title or a clean title, right? And oftentimes it's taking several weeks, maybe a month. It delays the process. No, Mark's got such great relationships. He's built up these over years. He just walks into title and says, hey, ladies, hey, guys, I'm here. I'll see you at the baseball game later. Or, hey, can you do me a quick little favor? I mean, you don't have to, but, I'll bring you over a coffee and a donut. And but he understands I would say the art of the schmooze, right? He gets things done. And because of that, he lists it. He lists it faster. His clients are happy. They get it sold. It's just an amazing process as he's leaning on these relationships. And so I know that happens between the two of you guys, and it's going to happen for you and those that work for you in the future. Mike, can you tell me, as we're wrapping up here a little bit, can you tell people how they can get in touch with you and then who your ideal client is? Like, who would you like to spend more time with, talking to, and at what point in that process? I'll just give you a quick example. If someone says, I'm thinking about selling my real estate, thinking is, it maybe happened during a slow market, but we're in a boom, 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 fast market. So I want to talk to somebody who is ready to go today. They have their financing set up. They're ready to go. Who is that person for you, Mike?
Well, the reality is, man, I mean, it's anybody who is involved in, who's an active real estate investor, really.
Okay.
And the reason why, initially they may not completely understand what we're doing, but the concepts are very, very similar. Obviously, the 1031 exchange for that matter, but it's a triple net with income, basically, is what it
Yeah.
is. And whether you're thinking about selling, whether you just sold, none of that really matters to me, because the way I approach it's the same every time. We want to help people, kind of connect the dots, understand, who we are and what we do. And more often than not, just because somebody's thinking about selling, that might be 6 months out, we're still getting deals done because what we do adds so much value, right? The diversification, that income, it's not tied to stock or real estate, and the lack of liabilities associated. I mean, there's actually zero liability, with this stuff. So, again, I don't care where they're at in the process. Anybody who's interested, and I'm open to talking to, because like I said, a lot of times we end up getting deals done without an exchange too. So
What size of deals, what size of investors, and then in which locations? Does that matter?
no, I mean, just by default, I think 99.9% of the people I deal with live in Texas. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
because like I said, we don't do any kind of sales or marketing. It's all word of mouth, 100% relationships on the buy and sell side. So I'm naturally I'm dealing with the people who are right in front of me all the time.
Yeah. So
But
real estate investors could be anywhere. Asset class matter, or in a structure matter. I mean, can you deal with Can you deal with large groups of investors? You're looking to deal with single accredited investors that have a portfolio. Who is ideal?
I mean, look, yeah, you should definitely be accredited. But it doesn't really, so no matter what, anytime we sell, all or a portion of one of our mineral deeds, usually we sell them all at one time, but I mean, they're taking title. So, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a group of 100 people or one person or a husband and wife. I mean, it all works. That's one of the beauties of mineral deeds is that they're very, very flexible in a number of different ways. Especially, the approach that you can take to acquire them. So.
Do you prefer to talk to brokers like Mark, or do you prefer to talk directly, being introduced directly to the investor themselves?
Both, because
Okay.
brokers have a circle of influence, right?
Okay.
They're dealing with a lot of people, so that's obviously a relationship I'm very much interested in. But also too, the decision maker end user is also, I mean, that's a great person to talk to. So I mean, there's value in both, a lot of value. And what ends up happening more often than not is once people start seeing the revenue, even if I met them individually outside of Mark, for example, they end up becoming a referral center for us. So man, I'll talk to anybody, as long as you got your interested party with the
Sure.
ability to do it. Obviously it's not this ain't the Salvation Army, man. It's not a charity, right? So
No, I get you. I mean, and that's not who we're normally talking to, right? We've got investors that are big time players. We've got investors they're doing their first deal. They're selling. They're looking to buy. They're reaching out to Mark. So it sounds like a great introduction for you is either a broker who is actually working with investors or the investors themselves. They can reach out to you directly. How do they do that? What's the preferred method of communication for you? And
yeah.
by the way, I put your slides in the slide deck from SlideShare. They are brilliant, man. I don't know if you remember their presentations you've done. Some of them are just way beyond my comprehension level, but they're very well laid out. So I want to encourage people to check out the SlideShare decks. If you have more questions, reach out directly to Mike. How do they do that?
My email address is mgmt, like management, mgmt@rangerminerals.com.
All right, I'll put that in the show notes here.
Yep.
Mark, I know that we dominated the session by talking to Mike, which is extremely exciting.
Well,
But
I'd like to
you're the
pitch
man,
you.
dude. I'm such a big Mark fan, and I know that you are. Every time I mention your name to anybody, they're like, "God damn, that guy is 100%." I've never heard anything bad about you. Maybe I haven't talked to the right people, but I can say only the best things about you. Can you tell people about what you have going on right now and how they can contact you?
Yeah, I've got a lot of things going on. Just put one in title today. 250 acres, 450 acres, North Texas. I'm selling honky tonks in Texas. Heck, we're doing commercial deals where you've got me out of my comfort zone on that. But you can look me up. All American Home and Ranch Sales. We have a website. Before we finish with me though, I want to pitch Mike. Mike's made my client relationship so much better. He's amazing. My process, and it's from $125,000 guy to multi-million-dollar guys. He handles all of them, and he handles them all the same. When I say just call Mike, he's the expert. I don't even want to talk about it. He's so good with my clients, and that's what I always expect. So, you said take something away. Give more service than what's expected.
Yep.
Do what you say, work your butt off.
Mhm.
That's my mantra. That's how I work. Mike is amazing with clients. He's patient. He takes the time to completely educate them throughout the whole process, make them feel good, which in turn makes me look good. He's amazing with people, and then he does what he says and really delivers. So
That sounds like a cowboy right there to me. Does what he says and delivers.
There you go. Yeah, I work with one of my old. I always had a business coach for over a decade. I've got one named Tony Jerry that I've worked with for a long time. New York Times best-selling author, real successful guy, and he his mantra is literally the exact same as Mark's. It's give value, do more than expected, man. It's a foolproof way to win for sure.
So you asked some of the stuff I've sold recently. Somebody put on I saw it, said this sounds like an episode of Yellowstone. I sold 7,800 acres up in Guthrie, Texas recently.
What?
It's next to the 4.6 where they're filming Yellowstone in 1883. So kind of a cool deal. We're going to go hunt it next week, and you'll actually be able to see some of the movie set.
That's amazing. I
And
love
so
it. You guys are stand-up gentlemen. We want to thank you from the CRE Pro Show, CRE Pro Course. If you have any questions, please reach out. Again, in the sidebar, you could always ask questions of these guys. We will respond and like, comment, and connect with other CRE pros. From us here in Texas, we just want to say yeehaw, and thanks for joining us. Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate your time. Mark, Mike, until next time, my friends.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, guys.
Take
Bye.
care.